Hey guys, welcome back. It's Nikki. Today I wanted to do a little bit of an artist talk, a little bit of maybe just an advice if you're just starting out, some useful things that I've learned over the years as well, and that have helped me just progress and be a little bit better at my craft. And then I do think is really important for everybody to utilize. So since this is the very beginning, I think we should start from the beginning of any good piece of art. And I guess it really doesn't, sometimes you could, have a stroke of inspiration maybe and you don't use as much, but it's still always a good idea to have a really firm foundation in reality. So today we're actually going to be talking a little bit about reference. And I won't go on forever, but I just wanted to say how important I think reference is when you're creating some artwork. I think it tends to be people think that when you're an artist, everything is just coming out of your brain and you have just like this wealth of, knowledge of the physical world that you can kind of translate into a painting or a drawing or what have you. But most artists do use some sort of reference, especially if you are trained as an artist. So if you went to like art school and things like that, they usually really do tell you that you need to have some sort of base before you start going off on your own. And that can kind of come in a lot of different forms. So something that I actually started doing a long time ago was I actually have, show it to you now, it's like a little shoebox that I do keep. It's not everything, but it is just a box of like little clippings from magazines and from, calendars and things like that. And I even save like little feathers and doodads like that. I do have things like shells that I'll collect and hang on to. I try not to hang on to too much stuff. It's very hard, but a lot of times I will, once I'm done with a reference, sort of, discard it or put it to the side or maybe give it to somebody, something like that, so I'm not like collecting too much. But it's nice to have something where if I maybe am not sure where I'm going with something, to take a look and find an image that inspired me at one point, and then I can grab it right out and start working on something new. That is, pretty good, but it is a little better, especially if you're working with like a physical body, if you're doing some figure work, to have somebody pose for you. So using people you have in your everyday life does, sometimes they feel a little awkward about it. And I'm not necessarily just talking about a nude model, but just in general, having somebody take the position of something that you're painting, something or someone, to get an idea of how the human body actually will be able to move and bend and what can and can't be done. I have here for you, unfortunately I don't have the picture any longer, but I have here a image that I drew of my younger sister actually, and she sat for me for this. I used a very strong light on her to, kind of bring out her features, and because of that, it blends a little bit more into reality. I did take a photo image so that I could go back and reference that as well. And I always say that that's a really good idea too, especially I do work a lot actually in like natural things. So I've done paintings of things like leaves and stuff like that where it's not going to last forever and somebody can't sit for you forever. So taking a nice image, a nice clear picture of whatever it is you're doing at that time with that same lighting can be really helpful too, just so you can go back and sort of reference that as well. That way you don't have to be like, oh, well, how was that lighting after all? So I just kind of wanted to show you a contrast of just like, oh, a little sketchy thing that I drew just offhand. And you can definitely see the difference. I mean, obviously here I was not going for photorealism, and I am not an artist who typically goes for photorealism. I do a lot more, emotion in my paintings and drawings and things like that, or at least I try to. So that said, it's my version of like a cartoony thing, but you can definitely tell that the proportions of a human's, neck is not going to really look exactly like that. And while, some things are okay, like the distance between her eyes is really strange and stuff like that. So if you're going for something a little more realistic, definitely always having a reference is important. But even if you're not, even if you're doing something a little more cartoony, or if you are drawing comics or something like that, it's still important to have a grasp of what things are going to look like in the real world, as well as lighting. Lighting is really important too. It helps with our understanding of shapes and depth. And, it also lends a lot to how we make color choices. Our lights can be warm, they can be cool. So depending on what the light source is, that could also be affecting how you end up putting color on something. With that in mind, I don't do it anymore, but another thing that I used to do when I was just starting out was I would have color reference. So I would go to somewhere like Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that and go to their paint section and take a couple of like the little paint swatch cards and I would have like a little collection of those so that I could take one color that I was thinking about using, or a similar color, because you could do a color match, but just like the feeling of the color you want, and kind of put it with other colors. So if you're really learning on how to use color still and you're new to color theory and things like that, having a color reference is not always a bad idea, especially if you're not naturally super good with color, which I have not always been very good with color whatsoever. I am a very like matchy person, which is not always exactly what you want in a painting. You, to capture something more realistically, have to kind of open your mind and realize that things are not just the color that they are. There are many different colors that go into making up something, like, say, the human skin. The human skin is not, if you buy a paint tube that says the color is flesh color, that is not the color of a human skin, and definitely not most people's skin. Every person has different undertones and, shades, and some people have, just like a rainbow within them. So you really do have to open your mind to things like color, and color reference can help you to just decide like what looks good with what, and just getting a better grasp of what it is that you're trying to capture in your work. You don't have to stay with any one thing, but this is basically just like your foundation, like somewhere to start, somewhere for you to jump off of and make it your own. The best, artists in the world, great masters, they used models, they used still lives. It is just the way that you can help to grasp the world. If you have a photographic memory, good for you. I bet this would be a lot easier for you than it would be for me and for most people. But there's definitely nothing wrong with having an image that you're working from. You're not stealing it, you're making it your own. You're creating something uniquely yours from a real life thing. And, you know, in a way that is also kind of cool, because you just transformed something yourself. You took the world and you transformed it in showing people now how you see the world. So I really feel like in the end, isn't that what art is all about? Showing the world through your eyes, through your unique perspective. And I hope you do. And I hope that this will help you and make you feel like, hey, you know, most artists do use reference, and it's really just a great way to get a grasp on reality. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you soon.